welcome to our podcast, Broker Banter Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I'm your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate about the home buying and financing process.
And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about August 2024 numbers, what's going on in the Denver metro area, and also talk about what is going on with interest rates.
Fed cut coming up soon.
Yay.
You ready for the game or what?
Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see we have our
Go Buffs.
I married into this shirt.
So you're not an alum.
I'm not an alum.
But your husband is.
My husband is.
Yeah, I didn't even know they had a football team until a couple years ago.
You know, they were in top 25 during his college years, I believe.
There was a short period of time, yeah.
Yeah, and, but of course, let's remember that CSU and CU were both, they had the longest losing
They were
streaks.
pretty terrible for a really long, CU went 1-11. I think they were literally the worst program in the country.
They were.
And when Deion came.
And then Deion came, and they didn't do 3-10.
They're not. There's a lot of hype.
Whatever.
There's a lot of hype. But, after the Nebraska game, it's going to be tough for me to talk a lot of smack.
Right. So by the time this comes out, this game will be over.
Yeah,
so,
but we're actually going to the game. It's going to be a good time.
Hard ticket to get here in the Denver metro area.
It is. It used to always be, at Mile High or Invesco or Empower or whatever the heck it's called now. Mile High Stadium.
Locals call it Mile High.
It'll always be Mile High.
Act like you're a local Mile High.
They put at Mile High. I actually heard the Penners are talking about a new stadium.
Is it even Invesco Field? Is it still Invesco Field?
No, it's Empower.
Empower.
Yeah. But did you, the Penner Group, the owners of the Broncos, the new owners, who are the richest owners in all of football, they are talking about a new stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I feel like that.
Speaking of, did you hear Josh Kroenke just bought a new house in Cherry Hills, $15 million?
Josh Kroenke, the son of Stan Kroenke. Kroenke owns Kroenke Sports Group, which is
and
Nuggets
he's a part
and Avs.
of it. I believe he's the CEO.
Yes, and Nuggets and Avs, but also the LA Rams.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's probably, I don't know, Jerry Jones is up there, and there's some other owners and most valuable teams. I know the Dallas Cowboys is the most valuable franchise. But there are some soccer clubs in the United or, some of those.
Right.
But
the Broncos sold
how many people own three, though? He has the Nuggets, the Avs, and the Rams.
Right.
Sorry, what did you ask?
What did they sell the Broncos for? A few billion.
I don't remember. Yeah. Every time somebody sells a team, it's for the most a team has ever sold for.
Right.
So,
well, of course.
It seems like maybe if you can't get into a house, you should buy a sports team. They continue to increase in value.
Yes. Because that happens so often that people can afford a sports team.
Right. It's only billions of dollars. But it's a
Peyton
good.
Manning, he was trying to get in on the buy of that.
I think he was. Yeah.
I don't think he's part of the
owner group.
The owner group.
And that's what they're doing now too, is they have to come together.
Yes.
I think the Penners are.
Didn't Tom Brady buy part? And then it was he has a minority stake in.
He may.
And I think the Raiders maybe. And so they were talking about him being a broadcaster and how that can affect. What
have you watched anything with him on the broadcast?
No, I heard over the weekend or beginning of the week that he didn't do wonderfully, but he'll.
You know what I heard? You know who I like is Tony Romo.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's pretty great.
Yeah.
I heard they asked him.
I remember when he dated Jessica Simpson. That's how long I remember him, when he was a quarterback.
Wow. Who's Jessica Simpson? So
it was before she married Nick Lachey when they did the MTV the Newlyweds or something like that.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, I don't keep up with the.
I'm old.
Yeah. I was going to ask something, and now Tony
Romo.
They asked him to quit blowing all the plates for the viewers because how he has he's really good at lining, he can look and
and he's they're going to do
he circles and it's then they throw it to him and it's a touchdown.
Yeah,
and they said please quit doing that.
Really?
You're ruining the game for people who maybe, aren't as, can't read a defense the way you can. And so they actually asked him to kind of chill.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I read. I think I read that this morning.
Oh, hey, you know what? I read this morning and last night because my husband is big CSU guy, speaking of.
Yeah.
Pac-12. They're talking about taking 4 teams from Mountain West and moving to the Pac-12 and then adding I believe Columbia and Stanford, I think they said, to add in to make the Pac-12 be, their FBS. So
right,
Jay is super
now there's
excited.
After all the NIL stuff, it's definitely changed, and there's just the power conferences anymore.
Yeah, and Jay is super excited about that's great for CSU.
Getting out of the Mountain West would be fantastic.
I think it was Fresno State, Colorado State. I don't remember who.
Well, I don't know if you knew, but you were signing up for a sports podcast this morning. But no, we're excited about the game. It's going to be a good tailgate. It's going to be a good game.
We'll talk
There's
about,
a pretty good group of friends going, but obviously this is going to come out after the game. Maybe next week, maybe we should put a little wager.
Oh yeah?
I don't know. I mean, you got any CSU stuff that would fit me? Like maybe if
I do.
CU wins, you have to wear my CU, and if CSU wins,
you know what?
I'll
That's
wear
fine.
your CSU.
Let's do that because you can wear some of Jay's CSU stuff, and sure.
So you have,
Does he have
stuff that's? I mean,
yeah, you are bigger than him.
A little. Well, maybe that's just part of the bet. I got to fit into a medium-sized shirt. You guys all be.
Oh my gosh, that is what he wears.
Medium, extra large. It's all the same.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
all right.
do it.
Here.
Okay.
All right. We just shook hands for those only listening and not watching. All right. I guess the wager is on. Please win. See you.
I mean, Shador's out. No, not Shador. Shiloh.
Yeah. I know. There's been.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about it next week.
We will. Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about the Nebraska game. I had to turn it off. They just got handled. So I'm not really optimistic. It sounds like it's possible I'll be in a medium-sized shirt for our next podcast.
It's going to be great. I hope we win.
So we got some August numbers.
Yeah.
So here we are, mid-September?
Mid-September.
Just not quite, but wow, that's
September
crazy.
12th. Yeah, it is today. This will come out next week. But the numbers are, well, let's see here. So at the end of the month, end of August, last day of the month, we had 10,724 homes on the market. Like I said a few months ago, that was just crazy to have 10,000 homes, active homes.
Yeah.
That's detached and attached. So condos
all
versus
active
single family home, all active listings. And it looks like, the number of homes that went under contract went up from July to August. We had about 3,800 homes pending or go under contract, which is up about 150 or so from last month, from July. So you can see the market is picking up.
I think with the talk about interest rates coming down, I mean, we are currently getting ready for the Fed to cut rates. I mean, everybody's expecting that. And I think we're going to continue to see that. So I'll be interested when we get like September's numbers, if we stay above that 10,000 mark or if we fall back under.
And numbers, I think the way the market is, these numbers are always like 30 days late, So
because if it closed in August, they went under contract in July.
Right. So then, speaking of, the closed numbers, you'll see closed from July to August went down actually. So there were 3,900 that closed in July and 3,600 that closed. These are round numbers, but about just over 3,600 that closed in August. So that means that in July, when people were negotiating and all this, there was less and interest rates were a little higher. And people, but the talk of interest rates have been for what would you say, past month? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I would say, maybe people who are closely more in tune like I am or you, probably the last 6 weeks, we've really been hearing a lot of chatter. There was a possibility of a half a point cut at one point.
But then we saw that interest rates actually went down. And so maybe people who were starting to
I've seen increased activity over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
So I think it'll be interesting, like you said, what happens when we get September or even October numbers to see. Because really, if the Fed cuts the rate, we probably won't see that until October.
So here's what I want to clarify too, though, and I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
The rates that I am quoting today or this week, we're currently sitting at an 18-month low.
Okay.
We're already baked in with this Fed rate cut.
You are.
Right. We absolutely are. But what happens is the news says, hey, the Fed has cut rates. And so like the people who aren't as in tune as we are hear it. And then the news around interest rates on the national level, changes and people then start to kind of come into the market.
Did you say what you just locked someone in for? Or have you?
Well, I was able to get 6% with no points.
With no points.
On Tuesday,
0 points.
Paying
on
0
Tuesday.
points.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then do you think with the rate cut, we'll get into
I would say I think it's possible by the end of the year. So there's a possibility that we see 75 basis points cut before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So there's 3 meetings. We have September, November, and December. And so there was a possibility of a 0.5 point cut. I don't think that's going to happen, but depending on what labor market does, I know we're doing your numbers and not mine, but they're so closely tied together.
Absolutely.
People are now kind of expecting a 25 basis cut at each meeting. So that means a total of 75 basis points or 0.75%.
So let's just say that happens. Are we thinking that by January we could be mid fives?
High fives.
High fives.
5 3/4.
Okay.
It's kind of what I'm anticipating for the first quarter of 2025.
But if you didn't watch our last podcast, Date the Rate, Marry the House, you should look at the cost of waiting. We went through that. If you like numbers, you're going to love it.
I love numbers, and it was amazing. We did go over a lot of numbers, and long story short, you benefit by buying now and not waiting for the rates to come down.
Right.
Get in while there's 10,000 homes on the market.
Right.
Because
to
as
negotiate.
rates do hit 5%, everyone is absolutely expecting a huge influx of buyers into the market. So you're not going to see that level of inventory.
Well, let's just talk about that. So
let's
August of 2023, right? So last year, the amount of homes that closed was just over 4,000 versus what I just said, 3,600 had closed this month or August of last month.
What's key?
What's different? But what's different is your average price, right? In August of 2023, the average price of homes were 690,000.
Right.
That's all homes, right?
Right. And now we're at 706.
And now we're at 706.
And the difference, too, the big one that I'm seeing is the total amount of homes on the market in August of 23 was 6,800.
Right. That's
compared to the 10,000. So there's more than 4,000 more homes on the market now.
Yes.
And so when we see these rates come back down, most likely we're going to be back into this market where 6,800 total homes on the market, 4,000 closed. That's less than a 2-month supply and a very low inventory.
Correct. So
that's advantage sellers.
Correct. Versus right now, I would say, even though they say neutral market, it is probably leaning towards a little bit of a buyer's market.
Yeah.
We have done a lot more negotiating, a lot more price drops, a lot more sellers, giving concessions for buyers to, help them with down payment, pay down interest rate. I mean, that just shows you right there. And I mean, if you look, the numbers right now are a little bit stagnant from July to August of what the, average price is, but we're talking about the difference of $300.
Yeah, I mean, month over month, I think year over year is a better indicator,
absolutely.
right?
I do too.
So we are still seeing, I mean, I think people were like, oh, the bottom is going to fall out of the market.
Yes.
We didn't see that. We actually saw almost 2.5% increase from August of 23 to August of 24.
Right.
Now, the numbers that we talked about last week, we kind of averaged at 4%.
4%. Which is usually pretty less. We've gone up so high so quickly in the Denver metro area that, they're still
what was
predicting
2022?
4%.
What was that year? Did we go up 20% or something incredible like that?
All I know is I bought my house in 19 and it doubled in price in
In from 19 to 2023, you had your home value doubled. Mine's almost there as well. And I bought in 19 as well.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
19 was a good year to move.
It was, it was, I wish I could say my expertise in the area. It was just time for us. We'd been in our current home 10 years.
Right.
And I had no idea the pandemic was coming.
Right.
So,
right.
But hindsight is 2020, and I'm very thankful that I was able to move when I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Worked out okay. But it's never a bad time to own.
Nope. Never a bad time to own.
So what other key takeaways do you have from these August numbers for us? Yeah.
Well, you know what I think is interesting, once again, talking about Date the Rate, Marry the House, the close price to list price ratio. If you look from August 2023, just to show that it is a little bit more of a buyer's market, the price that people listed at and what they sold at was 99.45%.
Yeah.
And right now it's 98.92%. So just showing that there is a little more wiggle room for buyers right now.
Softening a little bit.
Absolutely.
So we're pretty much, I mean, in August of 2023, 99.5% of homes closed for what they were listed for.
Pretty much.
So
yes.
pretty much offer was a full price offer.
Right. To where now, and I think that 98.92% might be a little bit skewed, because you could say, hey, yes, they sold, let's say, round numbers are always great for me, $500,000, but the seller, gave $10,000. Yes, it's going to show them a less. They still sold it for $500,000.
But they gave a $10,000 concession. Now, does this account for? So let me ask: is there anything that we can see in these numbers that talk about price drops? So, I mean, to me, it makes sense that if we're at 98%, right, 99%,
correct.
Well, if I drop my price 30, 40,000 and then I get an offer, that's still the offer at the current price. So are we seeing more sellers having to
drop
reduce?
Price? Absolutely.
Yes. I was going to get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. We are seeing that. We are seeing, and so that's just list price. Yeah, it doesn't say. I don't think that we have that stat on here.
Because I have heard that more sellers there are a lot more price reductions that we're seeing right now.
And I've seen it too in my own listings that I've had. But here's the difference, right? I have a very good educated talk with my sellers. Like, hey, we can start here, but this is where I think we're going to start at. And, we're not getting multiple offers anymore.
Right.
We're not getting, it's more of the traditional
the
market.
Balanced market. And I know we've probably said this in the past, but I had this conversation earlier today. It's like, people were so used to the market that was in Denver, where you have multiple offers first weekend all the time, that now that we're not getting that, it feels like, it's a buyer's market, but it's more in balance. It just feels so much different than what we're used to.
When you're not selling in 24 hours. But let's just move on to the next stat there. With
let's do that.
Days in MLS, so the average days on market, a year ago, August of 23 was 26 days, and now in August of 24, it's 37 days. Now, that is, we're going to see that number, I think, continue to tick up.
Yeah.
So for September, it's 37 days right now, but I think we're going to see closer to 45, 60 days. Which is still...
In the grand scheme of things, in the overall history, having your house on the market for 60 days is not that abnormal.
No.
Right? I mean, it's just, we have such short-term memories.
Yes.
And I think that we have to kind of maybe get away from that.
Yes. And, and I have been doing, I think, a pretty decent job of telling my sellers, like, hey, we have different expectations on price and different expectations. Wow, that's a hard word.
It's a tough one.
On days on market.
But I think that's where working with somebody who has a deep understanding of the market that they're in, neighborhood to neighborhood, and coming in at the correct price. Because what I have seen and what I've the conversations that I've been having is that if you list high, you're gonna sit.
Yes.
And people are just maybe not having that hard conversation up front. And so they're like, no.
It's a little bit hard to push price, but I'll tell you what, I have a new listing coming on the market actually today.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And we pushed price a little bit because they back up to a lake, they have mountain views. And, I talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago about, I won this listing against 3 other agents.
Yeah. Oh, so congratulations again. That's that one. I do remember talking about that.
And the number one, they told me a couple of reasons why I went out was, one agent said that the location didn't matter, which is, what's the first rule of real estate?
It's first 3 rules, right?
Right. Location.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
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 Right.
For sure. So they said the location didn't matter. So,
So wait, they
were backed up to a lake and have West Mountain views.
Yeah, I think that's a huge...
In Colorado,
yeah, first of all,
big deal.
There's no lakes here.
Yes. So no, and let's be honest, this lake, in quotes, has a 1.1 mile like running trail around. So it's a half mile.
I think I might know where this listing is.
Yeah.
But yes, it doesn't matter though. A pond,
No.
a lake in Colorado, a pond anywhere else.
Yes.
There's something about looking out your back deck
and having water and mountains. Yes.
I'm sorry, there's not many places in Colorado or Denver Metro specifically that you can get that.
So that agent lost it as soon as they said the location didn't matter. And the second agent lost it because they said, oh yeah, we're going to price low and we're going to get multiple offers. And I told them that market has passed.
They're not currently in tune with what is happening in the Denver market.
Correct. So just showing you that there's, and supposedly full-time agents, I don't know who they were, but that's what they told me. They were 3 referrals. This client had 3 referrals from friends and family, all different realtors. I think all different, they weren't all RE/MAX agents.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, congratulations on winning that listing. That's great.
Excited.
And I'm sure if anybody needs a property that backs to a lake and has mountain views, please give Kim a call.
Yes.
It's probably coming soon.
Today.
Today.
So let's hope that when this comes out in a week that we're under contract and,
You know what? That'd be awesome. But that's not the expectation
that's not the expectation.
You set because that's not the market we're in.
Correct.
Okay.
So once again, 37 days, we're going to see that number come up, I believe. But that's a pretty big stat too. What other stat is there that you think is important? Do you see anything else there? Sales
I think it's just seeing the power that the buyer has at this moment is what is standing out to me. I know we've talked about that, but I do believe that power, that leverage is going to be going away, especially as we head into next year and back into that spring market, maybe February of next year. That leverage might not be there.
I think we might even see a busy holiday season. Usually the holiday season slows down, but with interest rates being low.
If we see rates dip down into the 5s, which is definitely a possibility, I agree with you. Yeah. I think we may end up having a very busy fall, which is more than welcome.
Merry Christmas.
It's just not usual. It's a little atypical for the market.
I think maybe one or two other stats, just really quick. We had said what the price difference was year over year. Mm-hmm. So for detached, you see, $782 was the average price in August of 23 versus $792 almost was the average price in, August of 2024. So once again, just the
1%,
increase.
A little over 1%. Yeah.
Like we said, those numbers have kind of plateaued here just because we went up so quickly, but they're still predicting 4% this year.
So here's what I'm seeing now because now it breaks it down further and it goes from detached to attached.
Right.
That's a much different figure for attached properties. Right? I mean, there's actually quite a big reduction.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that, which we talked about, the HOA,
mm-hmm.
we are having condos are having a hard time getting financing because they have changed the rules.
There's a lot of pain with the HOAs, and it's tough because the majority of HOAs, and I've actually heard about the state looking at passing some additional regulations in regards to HOAs specifically, and who can run them, who can manage them, which might really be a good thing. Most HOAs, the boards are people who live in the community, and they're volunteers, and all they're trying to do is, hey, our insurance premium doubled this year, and we can't pass that on to our owners, right? And so we got to figure something out.
They're
an owner themselves.
Yeah, and they don't realize what they did is they lowered the price of their house. And of course, they would never want to do that.
But they had no idea because all they were trying to do was figure out, how do we get this premium down? Okay, well, if you get the premium down, we put a 10% deductible on this, or we move this around, and then all of a sudden somebody goes to buy the home and no longer can get financing.
Right, because the way that the Fannie and Freddie rules are...
FHA too.
And FHA, right. Mm-hmm. You have to have a 5%, no more than 5% deductible.
Mm-hmm.
and HOAs are doing 10%.
10% wind and hail most of the time.
Yeah.
They're also adding, I've seen one recently where after 10 years of the roof age, that now they're only going to pay as cash value. So instead of insuring the roof at replacement costs, so meaning we're going to put a whole new roof on, we're going to depreciate the roof. A 30-year roof is now 10 years old.
Correct.
So we're only going to repay you for 20 years worth of the roof, which then that would leave the homeowners on the hook to pay the difference.
And if you haven't heard about that before, you should watch our
expert with our insurance agent.
Yes, we actually touched on that because a lot of people have changed. A lot of insurance companies have changed your roof coverage to cash value.
Well,
and you may not even know.
Yeah, and especially in Colorado because he did talk about that specifically, didn't he?
Well, because I asked him.
Yeah. Well, but I agree with you. The attached properties did see a price decrease year over year, and I do think it's because they are having issues with the HOAs and the insurability.
So just to give you what that average price was, last year, August of 2023, it was basically about $480,000 is what the average price was for a attached home.
So does that include townhouses and condos?
Yep, townhomes and condos. And so but then you can see here now, the average price this last month was $445,000.
That's a pretty significant decrease. That's over 7%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about maybe your margins are not as wide, in a condo, right? So, I mean, those numbers, just the numbers from last month of July 2024, the average was 457.5.
So it's gone down even month over month. It's like close to 3%.
Right.
So I think
now, does that mean that you should be scared in buying a condo? No. It's still better than renting. It's still better, than throwing 100% of your
100% interest on
that. So the thing of it is that until we get the financing thing figured out, I think you're going to see condos going down.
Yeah, and I think. What's key, because I know we've worked together on some first-time home buyers who sometimes that's all you can do, right? Like I can't afford a single-family residence out of our price range, so I'm going to get into the market. I'm going to get into a condo. I'm going to get into a townhouse. But we were able to vet that project for them to make sure that everything looks kosher and they're not going to be affected in the same way as maybe some of these other projects.
So. I was on the better end of this deal, but I have another client who has a home for sale. It's a townhouse, but the buyers were desperate because they went to the day before closing when they found out that that condo was non-warrantable. So then they had already given their notice. Oh no! Had already, had no place to live.
They told them the day before closing.
So then they were scrambling that weekend. Happened to buy our listing, but because it was a townhome, it was lot and block, it was not a condo, and you insure it yourself, that they had no problems. We're closing in 3 weeks. My client is super excited.
Good. I'm glad they were able to find
yes. And so full price with a concession, and so we came out on the lucky side of that, but just like
So it's the buyer that was currently under contract, they couldn't move forward. You have a new buyer, or they found somebody that could do the financing.
Our house was not under contract. That buyer came and looked at our listing, and they bought our house because the
other one. Got it.
Because it was non-warrantable condo.
Yeah.
And condos can look like townhomes. It's the way that they are.
The legal description.
Yes.
What Kim said was lot and blocked. And what that means is the legal description typically of a single family residence is it's, lot 37 of block A 12, or 12 or whatever.
B.
And so a townhouse typically has that same type of legal description as a single family residence.
Correct.
To where a condo does not, because when you buy a condo, typically you buy the interior, the exterior is owned by the complex. Yeah.
Correct. And sometimes townhomes are like that too, but legal description makes a big difference. So they could have bought something that looks like a townhouse, probably feels like a townhouse, but because it had condo in there, they Fannie and Freddie were like, nope, sorry.
I know we have a friend who's actually working on the board of an HOA.
Yes.
And they were talking about renaming, and they were just talking about getting rid of the name condo altogether.
Yes. And I think any condo complex should do that.
I would agree so too. But I think the lesson learned from this is make sure you're working with experts who understand the complexities of the transaction and are going to tell you well before the day before closing.
Hey, this is
that sounds
like condo.
Just hearing that makes me anxious.
Are you sweating?
A little bit.
It was because you're wearing a sweatshirt and 90 degree weather.
I mean, it is hot out, but this is like my CU. This is my swag.
He doesn't even know what SCO CU means, so he's not really a fan.
Whatever. Interest rates, or do you have anything else on August numbers?
One, just really quick, and then we're done. Just the average days on market. You can see a year ago, condos were 25 days on market average. Now August is 41 days.
Wow.
So look at that, how much that has changed. Yes. Mm-hmm. But even month to month, right? 35 days in July. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see that number continue to tick up also.
Yeah. So I agree. September numbers are going to be really interesting. I look forward to breaking those down.
I think October will be better.
Okay.
October, the 30 days. So, but September will still be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they're always interesting if you like numbers.
Yeah, a lot of podcasts with numbers lately.
Well, real estate and mortgage financing is a lot of numbers. I mean, there's a lot of numbers. So, speaking of numbers, so
Patrick, tell us.
Yes, weird. I love talking about this right now because we're here. We've made it. It's June of 2022.
Looks like we've made it.
Right? Like June of 2022, the Fed aggressively started to raise rates.
Aggressively, yes. Very aggressive.
And it was like this crazy
We hit 8%. No.
Yes, we did. About this time last year.
8%.
October of last year was 8%. And let me just tell you, that was rough. 8% was rough. It was very expensive to borrow money at that point.
7% has still been rough.
It has been. But you know what? Those days are behind us, Kim.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm glad to report that.
Who knows for how long? But yes.
Well, I think inflation is down. The labor market is weakening. We've talked about that. Yes. And we've gotten a couple inflation numbers over the last couple of days that have been really on par for what we expected. And so we are definitely expecting a 25-point basis cut. Did I say that? Basis? Yeah. Bips. What I actually like to say is bips.
But you said basis.
25 basis points cut here next week from the Fed. And so that is what I have been waiting for. Last fall, everybody was like, inflation was under control. Do you remember the conversation though? Inflation is under control. We're going to see 6 cuts in 2024. Oh. We are in September. We are almost to the fourth quarter and we are finally here. So it's just like this.
Yeah. Go back to our January. You can hear how excited we are. And then listen to us in April. We're like, oh, this is not good.
You know what though? 2024, I think what's been good about this, to be honest with you, there were a lot of people, mortgage originators, realtors, who jumped in to capitalize on what was probably one of the best periods or markets in the history, right? Rates at 3%, house values going up 15, 20% year over year. So that's fine. I get that. But a lot of those people are now out of the business because they couldn't survive.
Hopefully to find a professional is a lot easier than it was a few years ago. But you know what else is kind of awesome about Denver is that even though we are plateauing. Patrick lives here, so everyone should. You know it's awesome.
That's right.
But that you have seen where other towns like Austin, Texas is really struggling right now.
They got hammered. Florida
is
pretty much
struggling
all of Florida.
Because those were some bubbles.
Well, we did see that. And
and Denver is still doing well.
The way that I've always seen Denver in 2009. Denver has always been a little bit ahead of the nation, and I feel like we're kind of like a steady Eddie. We don't see these massive price increases nationally. Everybody saw, but not like Austin or some of those boom towns that we saw. Prices increase so quickly.
I hear Austin's pretty cool. I've
never been. I wouldn't mind going. Let's go to Austin.
Yeah, maybe someone's birthday.
Maybe. So anyways, interest rates are coming down.
Yes.
Lowest point in 18 months, which is longer than 52 weeks. I don't know if you're aware of that. I don't know how many weeks that is, but it is 18 months is where we've been. What's 52 divided? 26.
I was thinking
26. 26 plus 52, 78. 78-week low. So that's very exciting. And yeah, if you are interested to see where you could qualify, give us a call.
You almost have 2 babies in that time period.
I can't have any more babies.
40 weeks,
I'm almost
40
empty nester. Those years are long gone. But if you do have a baby, please have one at Littleton Hospital where my wife would be able to take care of you.
And then you may need a new house because...
Right. You've outgrown that. You need an extra bedroom. Give us a call.
Yes, give us a call.
On that note, if you have found this podcast informative, possibly funny, we think we're pretty funny.
We do.
Give us a like, share us. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple. I mixed that order up.
That's okay. Same thing. Same 3.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.